continue our investigation into finding out what happened to Summer Wells. Ansley Daniels spoke with District Attorney General Dan Armstrong in his first interview about the case and what his role is almost 10 months in when no one has been charged. On the night of June 15th, District Attorney General Dan Armstrong called in the TBI to help with the search for Summer Wells in the Beach Creek community. Now, as the 10-month mark is approaching, his role is looking ahead to the possibility of charges.
It's a case that has implications of the legal system and the law, but you couldn't classify it right now as there's no criminal charges been filed.
Summer's older brothers were put into CPS custody last July, but no charges have been filed over their removal. However, their father, Don Wells, is serving time in the Hawkins County Jail over DUI and violation of probation charges.
This is a very complicated issue that has been made more complicated by the players in this drama.
No one has been arrested or charged in
the
relation
players in this drama. The players in this drama. The players related to Don and Candace Wells. And I believe that with all my heart. There has been information released that, if it is true, that should have only been released to the grand jury. And I believe that the reason that it is being released is to show that Don and Candace Wells cannot get a fair trial, that they are being tried by the public. And if you'll notice, every time a video is being released about Candace being the victim, then Candace will make an appearance over on Ernie's channel about how bad she was abused. Well, let me remind you guys, Candace is not the victim here. Summer is still the victim here. Summer will remain the victim here. Not only until she is found, but until we get justice for her. And then we have to remember that the boys are also victims here. Victims of generational abuse. Because this is not Candace's first rodeo. Candace had an order of protection last October. She had her chance to leave the situation, but yet she chose to go down and drop that order of protection and remain. Candace, if she is any sort of victim of Don Wells, she has chosen to remain in that situation. But let me remind you that we have seen abuse go both ways in that home. We have heard of abuse going both ways in that home. We have heard stories of abuse going both ways in that home. It appears to me like the defense of Candace Wells is being set up and set into place. And the setup of everybody else is being put into motion. That Don is being set up to be the fall guy. Ernie Shell is being set up to be the fall guy. Everybody except the person that Summer was with last. And many, many, many subs has fallen for this. And these people are making a fortune from the subs that has been suckered into the defense of Candace Wells. The very person that Summer was with last. The very person who has lost 7 kids to CPS. 6 kids to CPS. 1 to adoption. My bad. And at the very least, in this case, is interfering with custodial, CPS custodial interference. Hiding her.
A little girl's disappearance, but that doesn't mean it couldn't happen at some point.
We make ourselves available to both the Sheriff's Office and the TBI to advise them as to the consequences of the next step that they're proposing to take and how we can do it to where if there is eventually a prosecution, it'll be, what they gather will be something that would be, that we can introduce in a court. Make sure we cover all those bases.
If an arrest ever does take place, that's when Armstrong will look at what charges can be filed.
If it ever got to the point where we were ready to consider charges, then of course they would talk to me about what charges and who to charge. And a case like this would generally go to a grand jury if it ever got to that point.
Armstrong declined to comment about Don Wells' current legal troubles. Even though he stays in touch with law enforcement about where they're at in this investigation, he's almost at a standstill in his particular role.
And that is exactly what these so-called victim advocates want, is for these investigators to be at a standstill. In this investigation. That's what Mullins wants. And that's what everybody is wanting to do. And the release of this information about these boys in their foster homes should have never, ever happened. And all these creators that are repeating this information, I want to remind you that one of them is only a couple of years away from possibly applying for jobs, of being 16 and starting to apply for jobs. And every time that they apply for jobs, an employer Google searches them. And many employers use social media searches. This crap is going to come up. Every time one of those kids Google searches their own names, this is the crap that's going to come up. Oh, their possible involvement in their sister's disappearance. Oh, of how bad they were essayed by their own mom. Come on, guys. This is the stuff that should have been kept behind locked doors to a grand jury. I was disgusted last night when I heard another creator that was supposed to be on the right side of this spouting this stuff off. How would you feel if that was your son? And I want you to think about that, of how if that was your son that was starting to even apply to a lot of these kids that leave foster care are encouraged to go into the armed services. And I promise you that the Army does look at this stuff. And they're not going to be able to go because they look at the psychological stuff that that particular child has been through. Oh, no, he's at risk of shooting or killing somebody because of what he has been through. And besides that, y'all could possibly be pushing these kids to self-harm. This is borderline bullying, if not worse. I'm done here.